Welcome to our channel, where the only thing we love more than scary stories is sharing them with you. Please subscribe and help us grow. Also, please like, comment, and share. Your support really means the world to us. Thank you. Now let's get to the story. The wind carried a chill that gnawed at the bones. Even though the autumn sun was barely dipping below the horizon, Alara stumbled along the desolate road that wound through the village outskirts, clutching her fraying shawl tight around her. Her boots crunched over dead leaves that seemed to dry for the season, as if life itself had been drained from them long before fall arrived. The villagers had whispered about this place for as long as she could remember, a stretch of road that led to the hollow verge. They said that once you crossed into the verge, you might not come back, or worse, you'd come back different. Alara didn't believe in old wives' tales. At least, she hadn't. But now, with the fading light and the oppressive silence pressing in on her, she wondered if she should have listened. That was when she saw it, a black cat. It sat in the middle of the road, still as stone, its green eyes locked on her. She slowed, unsure if it was feral. The cat's gaze didn't waver. Then, without making a sound, it turned and padded toward the trees on the right side of the road, stopping after a few steps to glance back at her. "Strange little thing," she muttered. It padded forward again. Stop. Look back. Against her better judgment, she followed. The trees closed around her, their branches twisting like the fingers of skeletal hands. The last streaks of sunlight bled away, swallowed by shadows that seemed unnaturally thick. The cat led her to a small clearing, and there, she froze. He was sitting there, as if he had been waiting for her. At first, her mind refused to process what she was seeing. The figure was tall, cloaked in black, his face hidden deep within the shadow of a hood. A scythe rested across his knees, its curved blade glinting faintly in the dying light. His gauntleted hands, skeletal, yet bound in black and iron, rested on his knees. Every inch of him radiated something that was not human. The cat sat before him, calm and unafraid, staring into the darkness where his face should be. Alara wanted to run. Every instinct screamed at her to turn, to flee, to never look back. But her body wouldn't obey. It was as if her feet were rooted to the earth. The figure tilted his head slightly, as though studying her. The movement was slow, deliberate, like a predator deciding whether the prey was worth the chase. "Do you know who I am?" The voice was a whisper, yet it seemed to echo from everywhere at once. It was not loud, but it carried a weight that settled in her bones. She swallowed hard, death. The hood inclined in a slow nod. "And do you know why you are here?" I was just walking. I followed the cat. The cat is mine," he interrupted, his tone not cruel, but final. "He chooses who comes to me." The cat's ears twitched at the sound of his voice, but it didn't move. Alara's breath quickened. Am I dead?" A low, rattling sound came from within the hood. It might have been a chuckle, but it was the kind of sound that made her skin crawl. "Not yet." Relief surged in her chest, but it was short-lived. "Not yet," he repeated, "is not the same as never." The scythe shifted in his grip, the blade catching a shard of moonlight that had slipped between the trees. "You stand at the hollow verge, where life and death meet. Most who come here are lost souls who stumble by accident. Others," he paused, and she felt his gaze pierce her even though she could not see his eyes. "Others are chosen." Her voice trembled. "Chosen, for what?" "To carry something." From beneath his cloak, he withdrew a small, blackened key. It was ancient, the metal worn but not rusted, engraved with strange, curling runes. "This key unlocks a door," he said. "You will not know where the door is until it finds you. When it does, you must open it. What comes through will not be yours to control." She shook her head. "I don't want it. I don't even." "You do not refuse the gift," he said sharply, the air around them dropping to a biting cold. "To refuse is to take its burden now, here, in my realm." Alara felt the ground beneath her shift, and she realized in horror that it was no longer earth. It was ash. All around her, shadowy shapes seemed to stir within the trees, moving closer. The cat rose, brushing against her leg, its fur oddly warm against her chilled skin. The simple contact seemed to steady her enough to nod. "Good," Death said, the cold receding slightly. He held out the key. "You will know when to use it. Do not lose it. Do not speak of it. And above all," his voice dropped to a hiss, "do not look at what comes through the door." She took the key. The moment her fingers closed around it, the clearing dissolved. Alara found herself standing on the road again, the cat at her feet. The sun had returned, though it hovered low, as if no time had passed. But when she looked down at her hand, the key was still there. That night, she dreamed. She stood in a hallway lined with countless doors, each one different: carved oak, rusted iron, smooth stone, some impossibly tall, others small enough to crawl through. She walked past them all until she found one door that pulsed faintly with light. The key in her hand seemed to vibrate. She reached out and woke with a start. The cat was sitting on her chest, staring into the darkness. "You'll know when," it seemed to say. Alara spent the next few days in a daze. She barely slept, ate little, and couldn't bring herself to go near the woods. She hid the key in a wooden box beneath her bed, telling herself she would never use it. But the dreams returned. Each time, she was closer to the pulsing door. Each time, she could hear something on the other side, faint at first, then louder. A whispering, wet and slithering, words she couldn't quite understand, but that made her teeth ache. Then the night came. A storm raged outside, wind howling like voices in mourning. Alara woke to find the cat sitting by her bedroom door, staring at the hallway beyond. She followed its gaze and froze. There, at the end of the hall, was a door that had never been there before. It was the same one from her dreams. Her feet moved without her consent, the key already in her hand. The closer she came, the louder the sound became, a rasping breath, a scraping like claws over stone, and beneath it all, a low, rhythmic pounding, like a heartbeat far too slow to be human. She stood before the door, trembling. In her mind, Death's voice whispered, "Do not look at what comes through." Her hand turned the key. The lock clicked. The door swung open, and something came through. She didn't look. She couldn't. Every instinct screamed that to look would be to surrender her mind forever. She kept her eyes on the floor as a shadow spilled into the hallway, thick and suffocating. The air turned heavy, the smell of damp earth and rot filling her lungs. The thing moved past her, slow and deliberate, and the floorboards creaked under its weight. It did not touch her, but she felt its presence press against her bones. When it was gone, she closed the door and locked it. The cat was gone. Alara never saw it again. But sometimes, late at night, she would hear footsteps in her hallway, and sometimes the door would be there again, waiting.